As a contractor, I don't pay for materials I don't use. So why would I pay for stuff I don't need in my mobile plan? That's why my Biz plan from Verizon Business is so perfect. Now I can choose exactly what I want, and I only pay for what I need.
Right now, with my Biz plan, get our best price, as low as $25 a line. Visit Verizon.com/business to get started today. New lines only. Price per month with 5+ lines. Includes auto pay and paper-free billing and promotional discounts. Taxes, fees, economic adjustment charge. Applicable add-ons, prices, and terms apply. Guarantee applies to base monthly rate and stated discounts only. Add-on prices additional. Offers in March 31st, 2026.
Año nuevo, los mismos Extra Value Meals en McDonald's. Ahora te puedes llevar 2 snack wraps y papitas y una bebida mediana por solo $8. Solo por tiempo limitado. Precios y participación pueden variar. Los precios pueden ser más altos en Hawaii, Alaska y California y con entrega.
This is your fix.
I'm your host, Stassi Schroeder. Welcome to Tell Me Lies, the official podcast. What's the most unhinged thing of season 3?
Steven, because he's so evil.
I do think he is misunderstood.
You see everyone face consequences. It's intoxicating.
The writers just know how to trick you.
There's always a twist in this show.
Tell Me Lies, the official podcast, January 6th, and stream the new season of Tell Me Lies, January 13th on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+.
Welcome back to the Infinite Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Jeremy. Tonight, we have a special guest. But before we do that, we got to check in with our co-host, Jeff. Jeff, what's going on, man? How you doing today?
I'm lazy, bro.
That boy. That's
Yep.
it, huh?
Yeah, just lazy, man. Yesterday, I didn't do shit. It was my birthday. I just played video games all day. I literally woke up, played video games, took a nap, woke up, played video games, went to bed. It was nice. Today, pretty much the same shit.
Did you get the annual Happy Level Up text day from CJ?
Yeah, everybody hit me up, man. Appreciate all you guys for hitting me up. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't remember it's my birthday. So.
Oh, you just got slept on the couch tonight. Good job. Yeah,
Just
you did.
That's it.
See
That's
how
it.
see how trained I am?
Yeah.
I know.
Good. No, I'm boring, man. I'm good. Everything's good.
Sweet. Yeah, I don't have much going on my end. I'll give everybody updates on the show at the end. I don't like to front fill this stuff, so we'll backfill it tonight. So we'll jump right into the interview that we have lined up because it's going to be a good one, everybody. This is going to be good stuff. This is right up Jeff's alley. I think this is one of the rare occasions where we have a guest on where Jeff and my interests kind of overlap. So this should be a really good conversation. Without further ado, I'm not gonna sit here and commit a whole bunch of small talk. We're gonna jump right into it. We have an author in the house. He is the author of The History They Tell, co-authored with Donovan Taylor. We have Lance J. Dorrel here tonight to talk about Star People and a whole bunch of other stuff. He's really going to run the gambit. He's going to be able to explain a hell of a lot more than me. So let's go ahead and hand it off to him. Lance, how are you today?
Hey, Jeremy and Jeff, I'm doing well, and thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Let's dive into the meat of everything really quick. Can we just get everybody a quick synopsis of the entire spectrum of everything that we're going to talk about today? What does your knowledge cover in general? And then we'll come back and talk about the specifics. But really quick, let's just give everybody an idea of the entire range of everything we're going to talk about today, because it's a lot. And you and I had a phone call the other night just to kind of touch base on a little bit of it. And we went down a ton of rabbit holes. We kind of had to cut that short because we were just going to start recording an episode over the phone. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to you. Introduce yourself. Go through everything that you have to do. At the end of the episode, I'll give you all the time you need to hand off all your socials, your book, everything that you have going on right now. Just let everybody know who you are and what you do.
Sure. Again, thanks, guys. So I'm Lance Dorrel, and I'm an ethnographer and a historian and a writer. My whole focus for the majority of my journey has been studying Native American and First Nations people of the Western Hemisphere, Turtle Island, of course. With that being said, I was very, very fortunate to meet and still meet a lot of Native and First Nations elders and people in Mesoamerica and South America as well. And so we can talk tonight and we can cover the gamut from all the way from one of history's greatest mysteries, the Little Bighorn. Okay. Everybody's kind of interested in what happened there. And I can share a little bit of what is long kept oral history that our book focuses on, the history they tell. And then with that, while we were on this journey that took us up to 8 years, myself and Donovan Taylor, a Northern Cheyenne man and a Dog Soldier Warrior Society member to this day, we were very, very fortunate to start catching glimpses of very, very ancient history of this continent that had to do with Star People, an ancient civil war, the proverbial Greys, the Double Face, the snakes, lizard people, the eagle and the condor, and the Walla Mollum. And I can go on, and those all go down rabbit holes. But the bottom line is, we in this journey, we had no idea that it was going to lead us to this path. And we feel like we're the two luckiest guys in the world. So if I can help anybody understand a little bit of this from what's been shared to me and throw it out there so other people can research and get on this journey, that's the whole premise of this. You know, this is everybody has a chance at this, just like we did, and it can be done because this information is starting to come out, and Jeff's alluded to it a little bit before. With modern disclosure, we can tie some of this in that's sitting out there in plain sight. So that's kind of an overview, Jeremy.
Very good. Jeff, you got anything that you would like to start off with?
Not really. I mean, I don't even know where to start with all this stuff, to be honest with you.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, man. I mean, I'll just kind of give my nutshell, like thoughts.
Yeah, you're
nutshell.
Right.
I'm a nutshell. Just my thoughts on the whole thing. I mean, I've said it 1,000 times on this show. I'll say it 1,001. You know, I do believe that all of history essentially is a lie. I think that at some point in the history books, they just started making shit up, making people up, making events up. And I think that there's a lot of reasons for that. We can get into it, I'm sure. But I'll just say right off the bat that I will be biased, and I'm already a believer of such things. So let's go.
Huh. That brings up something that you and I should talk about one time. Just to kind of take a sidestep, we should talk about the Phantom Time Conspiracy.
Phantom Time Conspiracy. Write it down.
I just did.
Good job.
I'm going to forget what it's about, but I will. But anyways, all right. Let's start from the very beginning, okay? Where you started off in your explanation there. Let's talk about Little Bighorn. Something that I like to do for listeners is I don't like to assume that anybody knows everything. Let's start with the absolute basics. What is the Battle of Little Bighorn, and why is that important to what we're going to talk about tonight?
Okay, good start. So 1876, the United States Army had enough of the roving bands of native plains people. They wanted them subjugated and put on the reservations in South Dakota for good. They were exterminating the buffalo herds. They needed the railroad across that area to get to the gold fields. We were in a severe economic depression. And what you had was a Civil War hero, George Armstrong Custer, and the elite fighting unit, 7th Cavalry of the Plains Army Division. They had risen to fame in 1868 when they whacked a Cheyenne and Arapaho village down in modern-day Oklahoma, Indian country. And they were given that moniker as the elite fighting force, the vaunted 7th Cavalry. Eventually, they transferred to the Northern Plains. And this comes to a culmination where in May of 1876, they're put into the field coming from Fort Lincoln, which is in Bismarck, South Dakota, to head west, where traditionally Plains people have gathered in the Powder River country that would encompass northern Wyoming and southeast modern-day Montana. There are 2 other armies in the field, one coming up from southern Wyoming and one coming from the west over by Fort Ellis, which would be Bozeman, Montana. And they are to basically encircle these native people and try to get them subjugated and to go into the reses. And now remember, no stat phones, no satellites, no no telephone, radio. I mean, I can go on and on. So this is a daunting task in itself. But they didn't worry about the fight. Their whole worry was to find these people. Okay, and you know this battle has been written about, probably the most in the history of the United States, one of the most in the world. It's one of history's greatest mysteries.
It's Custer's last stand, right?
That's right. That's right. And it still captures the imagination. I've encountered that doing talks in little libraries. There's so many folks who are into this, but the whole thing comes to a culmination eventually after the 7th's been in the field for a month, and they catch these people in a traditional area of what is southeast Montana in the Little Bighorn Valley. Unbeknownst to them, that the 2 other armies are not anywhere close to them. One of them's been defeated 7 days before, and the other army from the west is grossly outnumbered and dragging its feet. So George Custer and his band of 12 companies that are in the field for the very first time fighting together. Yeah, you heard that right. The first time all 12 companies are in the field, are going to blindly try to take on this encampment that they really have no idea how big it is, but his scouts have been telling him for a number of weeks that the people coming to this encampment aren't leaving, they're converging. Okay, so the 7th Cavalry roughly had about 600 men. That's civilian Packers and 4 Lakota Scouts and maybe about 40 Arikara. And eventually they will come a surprise, despite all of this and being in the field for over a month. They will catch the native people's encampment by surprise on the banks of the Little Bighorn River, and George Custer will ride into infamy, to infamy, so to speak, when he tries to what you call hammer and anvil, where he divides his forces up into 4 groups. And again, I'm not. This isn't anything it's not out there written. Okay, you just got to read this stuff. But to move this along, he divides his forces and he sends 1 battalion, one of those 4 groups, across the river, and he promises to support them. And so this is with 125 men plus the Arikara scouts, and they go to hit this encampment that they have no idea how big this place is. Okay, because they had not had any time to properly reconnoiter this valley to see how big this encampment really is and to how many people this thing might have. That just wasn't on their radar. They worried about the fight afterwards. The whole thing is to get there, okay? And Custer eventually does not cross the river behind his subordinate, Major Marcus Reno. He decides to go to the bluffs above the Little Bighorn River, which are 300 feet above it, to get a better bird's eye view of this encampment, with hopes of getting around this encampment to do what you call a pincher, a hammer and anvil. Okay, it's a common tactic. What he doesn't know is that the terrain that he's about to encounter is treacherous, and he doesn't know where he's going. Okay, and the native contingent, while the village was surprised, the women and children, the elderly, they make a mass exodus to the north. Marcus Reno is stopped in the valley. He's not able to get this encampment, so to speak, on the run, running into where George Custer can get around him. Okay, he's stymied, and where this really starts to go into hidden history that was shared to us on this journey is the first defenders of this encampment who come out to face Reno and his 140 some odd men are youngsters and elders who are protecting the medicinal people, who are healing wounded warriors and horses from the Battle of the Rosebud 7 days before. Okay, that is just not talked about by many authors, but it was constantly told to us by these elders. Now this oral history kept alive. So while Marcus Reno is on a skirmish line, he's being outflanked. George Custer thinks he's got this village on the run. He also thinks his next subordinate, Frederick Benteen, is coming on with another 125 men, probably trying to bring up the pack train. So George Custer continues to go across the bluffs of the Little Bighorn Valley, trying to find a suitable avenue to cross down into this village, this encampment that could stretch for almost 2 miles, could contain anywhere from 7,500 to 10,000 people. Warrior size, could throw out the numbers of maybe 1,000 to 1,500, depending on what the age group you want to throw in there. But what they don't talk about is that on this day, the native people, the women and the youngsters and the elders, were not going to be taken. They had had enough. This was a culmination of years of the army attacking villages. In this encampment are Lakota, Cheyenne, Arapaho. But what we found on our journey was the hidden history talks about many more bands being there from different tribes, such as the Dakota, who are the parent tribe of the Siouan people of North America. There were many more Arapaho people there. There's a heavy influx of Algonquin people there that aren't talked about. There's some Cree people there, Gros Ventre, Ojibwa, and those would be the same speaking people that Arapaho and Cheyenne are. Those are Algonquin speaking people. And so on this fateful afternoon, while George Custer thinks this village is on the run, they're really putting up a tremendous amount of resistance. They've driven Marcus Reno into the timber, and he's getting put out of this fight, so to speak. Okay. And what that means is once they run Reno from the timber, basically he loses a third of his command. This fighting force converges on George Custer and his 5 companies of 210 men. And he's in terrain he doesn't know. He thinks his subordinates are coming on with the extra ammunition, extra men. And then very quickly, he's going to find himself surrounded by the hornet's nest, so to speak. Okay. And the culmination of all this is if you go to the battlefield to this day, you're going to go past the vaunted Last Stand Hill, where Custer and his merry band of men are said to make a heroic stand, right? You talk to enough historians, you talk to enough native people, and they're going to tell you that that's just not what happened that day. What happened was that George Custer, despite all these odds, he almost pulled this off. He got dangerously close to the non-combatants before Cheyenne people stopped him, drove him back up. And so he went around the vaunted Last Stand Hill. He now has to head back that way. Some of his men have lost their horses, and there goes your extra ammunition. The warriors converge on him. These are Cheyenne, these are Arapaho, Dakota, Lakota, Gros Ventre warriors. These are seasoned fighters who are guerrilla fighters who use the terrain to their advantage, and the cavalrymen are just at a complete disadvantage, running low on ammunition, chaos. And, George Custer and his men did the best they could under the circumstances, but they have to basically retake the vaunted Last Stand Hill. Okay? That's not talked about. Eventually, they cannot go any further because the back door closes on him, so to speak. And, the memorial to the 7th Cavalry, the famed Last Stand Hill, that hill chose Custer and his men. And the Native American people, that is what they talk about. That hill chose them. Okay? So Donovan and I worked really hard to bring out this oral history from the Arapaho, Gros Ventre. But what was neat about it was not only did their people have this hidden history that's not talked about, the other tribes talked about it as well and confirmed it. Okay? So we made it our mission to put this information out that's not been talked about. I wanted it to be user-friendly, and so I went into the historical records. I've been studying the Little Bighorn my whole life since 1976. I went through all the searches, and in the book, I brought out this oral history and showed that many of these stories had already been talked about. So I did the hard part for the reader.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Komm du noch?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Oh, it's such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Visit Blinds.com now for up to 45% off site-wide, plus a free professional measure. Rules and restrictions apply.
Okay, and it's got copious endnotes, it's got appendixes. So I try to make it very easy to follow. And eventually George Custer and his band of 5 companies are annihilated, and we have history's greatest mystery. So that should kind of bring you up to speed, all right?
So just want to make sure I'm tracking here. So what you're saying is that part of the hidden history, at least one aspect in this particular battle, is the fact that we're not taught about the tens of thousands probably of natives that were there. They make it seem like it was a much smaller grouping of them trying to fight off the army. Is that right? Is that what I'm getting here?
Part of it, yeah. So what you got, Jeff, is the standard story is it's always Lakota, and that maybe there's 200 Cheyennes and 5 Arapaho. That's the standard story that every historian regurgitates when they tell this, like what I was trying to give you the overview. And It's not. It's just simply not true. And the oral history is alive and well on the reservations, continuing to be kept by elders, taught to the youngsters. But this stuff was already in the written historical record. Okay, it's not hard to find it.
My question is, when I hear stuff like this, right? Because when I hear people like Graham Hancock, for instance, or they talk about these cities in the Amazon that just haven't really been discovered, right? They're overgrown, and there's estimates that some of these cities could have held 1 million people. And then you talk to mainstream, archaeologists or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, it's impossible. There wasn't that many people here then, right?" And it's okay, so something's not adding up. So my question always is, why? Why hide the number of how many people were actually living here 10,000, 20,000, however many thousands of years ago?
See, I was jumping into that same exact idea too, but I was coming from a different angle, right? Because the weird thing, well, it's not really a weird thing. It's kind of a known thing that we tend to do here in America is we tend to glorify our losses, right?
Yeah.
Colonel Custard was one of those guys where, I could totally see how he could have got his ass whipped, right? Where he just made a really, really stupid move and walked into a complete trap of just, thousands and thousands of natives, where he maybe conceived it, or he had intelligence saying that there was a couple thousand, but really it was tens of thousands of them. And it was just a dumb move from him. And instead we changed the history to say, he fought bravely against an even battle, but really he walked into something that this decorated military man probably really shouldn't have.
Yeah. I mean,
that seems more along the line of how our history works, right? That's how. But Jeff, I understand what the route you're going down. Jeff likes to look at things from the point of view of why are they always trying to control our thoughts and our views on the count on our population, right? So right now they're telling us that we have 8.5 billion people on the planet now, or just over 8 billion now. But really it doesn't seem like there's that much, but then when you go back in time, they say that there was far less than there actually was. Am I going down the right?
I believe it's an inversion. I believe that back then, right, I don't know, 30,000 years ago, there was probably more people than there are now, and they're probably doing everything has been inverted. That's what my belief is on that. But still, I'm interested in what Lance's thoughts are just on that part of it. Why would they hide the number of native tribes and people that were there? What's the motivation there to hide that?
Okay, so let's pick this up right before and after. So in the 1850s, the Army started having conflict as people pushed west out across the plains, and this culminated at the Little Bighorn, okay? And you got to remember, Little Bighorn is the equivalent of 9/11 to us three here, okay? It shocked the world. They found out about it in the 1876, our 100-year anniversary. I believe when that was going on in Philadelphia, it just reverberated. Custer and 5 elite companies of U.S. Army destroyed by the natives. Okay, well, so let's back up. They never took the time to understand really who the natives were and just what kind of people they really were. But see, they could have, because they were getting intel from captured natives or native people who had married into traders, half-breeds, people they had captured. And they started picking up, from what I am told, they started our intelligence services, which I have been told were around at that time, as well as the Canadians, had been picking up pieces that native people had a lot of abilities that are not discussed. So let's go down. We can go down that rabbit hole real quick. I think you'll get where I'm going.
I think that's a good rabbit hole to go down.
Okay, so but see, once you learn this part of it, that you're going to see, Jeff, why they covered this up to start with. The native people, and again, I'm not telling you anything that hasn't been discussed by Native American historians and authors, and a collection of incredible books put out years and years ago that nobody continuously looks at. Okay, there was the great Vine Deloria who wrote about this information. William K. Powers, I'm looking at these books here. Dr. James Walker, who spent time with Lakota people at the turn of the century. I mean, I can go on these books. And the point being is the Army and the United States government and the Canadian government had learned that the native people had some abilities that would be called supernatural, but now it's starting to come out that it's not. We talk about possibly telepathic communication. Okay. We talk about remote viewing.
Yeah.
Okay. We can also talk about how they felt that they could converse with the plants, the trees, the animals. Okay. And there's a couple of really good stories about the Little Bighorn, about talking with the birds and the animals that's in the book. There was also a lot of talk, and a lot of people want to focus on it now, and I steer away from it, but I will bring you to speed on it. They had been catching glimpses of stories about how Native American people and First Nations had an ability to take another form, okay? To take a form of an animal. If somebody wants to call that shape-shifting, then they can call it shape-shifting. But so you see, the government was very interested in these people. Okay, now you say, well, why does that make them go after them in Montana? There was enough of them around the forts, the hanger honors, and those things. Well, the group that's out in Montana, it's always said that they only gathered like 2 or 3 times. That's the biggest bunch of crap. Jeff, this goes back to what you're talking about. These people had been on the plains for thousands of years before this. The Algonquins, okay? Jeremy and I talked about this. The Algonquin people came across from Siberia, Mongolia, Central Asia, islands north of Japan, and they came across the Bering Land Bridge, Alaska, Yukon Territory, Canada, down into the Pacific Northwest and across the plains all the way to the Great Lakes.
That's 13,000 years ago, right?
I'm sorry?
That's the 13,000 year ago land bridge you're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. This is well documented, and the stuff is still alive with Native American people here. So these people had been in Oregon. They're in Northern California, and they're all the way to the Great Lakes because they had to keep moving because there's a series of volcanoes erupting behind them. Okay, these Algonquins were so numerous, they broke off somewhere on the plains, and another group started coming southeast, and I think they came right across Missouri, where I'm at, and they smashed into these other native people. Some of them have been here, we don't know how long, and there was a massive civil war that broke out here. Okay, so these are the descendants at the Little Bighorn of these people. Okay, it's not amateur hour. You follow me here? These guys are seasoned warriors. These people are tied into this planet and what's here on this earth, this phenomena, so to speak, that's so well talked about finally to this day of possibly a life force that's here. They were in tune with it. Okay, and again, I'm not sitting here telling you to take my word at it. Do your own research. It's written down by very, very credible native people, told to them by their own people. Okay, so these people at the Little Bighorn are being persecuted because of these abilities. And you say, well, how do you know it? Because the stories are still alive. After the battle, they scattered. And guess what? They scattered with their bundles. Okay, and think of a bundle, very simple. It's your protection, it's your power, and it tied them to another world, and that other world would be to the star people. Okay, now if this sounds like it's going to the woo-woo, then I guess it sounds like it's going to the woo-woo, but this is their own history. Okay, and these bundles were cherished and sacred, and they were the lifeline to these people. And the U.S. government and Canadian government went after these people, after the Little Bighorn, and chased some of them all the way to Quebec. Okay, it would take the 3 of us quite a while to drive from southeast Montana to Quebec, let alone on a horse being chased. Okay, so put this in perspective. You're going to chase people. I mean, think about it.
Yeah, thousands of miles on crazy. Foot. It must have been super fucking important to send manpower and resources across. Yeah.
And these people had the ability, and they believed that they come from the star people. Okay, and again, I'm not sitting here telling you, the listeners or whoever, this is some cockamamie bull. This is their history, fellas. Mm-hmm. But we as a society turn our backs on it because it's supernatural. It doesn't fit what we're taught in school. And the guys that are bringing this hidden history out now continuously are not talking to native people. Sure, they're bringing up the history. Jeremy and I talked about it. Sure, they're talking about all of these great researchers in the past. Roswell, Leonard Stringfield, all these incredible people, George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell. but they are not talking about the people who are indigenous and who dealt with this phenomena, let alone whose belief is they were put here from people from another galaxy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and from your research, is first of all, I just want to ask, is there giants? Are giants mixed in there at all from your experience?
Yeah. So when I was talking about these Algonkins coming into North America, the group that split off and went to the southeast and runs into this civil war with these snake people. Now, these snake people, don't think of them as a creature. That's a name given to people that are already here or that are coming up from Mesoamerica and South America.
Okay.
But before that, these Algonkins have history about running into a bigger race of people who may be the mound builders. And there was a protracted war with these people. And these Algonkins allied with the Iroquois, allies maybe to the Cherokee as well. There's kind of loose speculation on that, but you get the picture, okay? So they battled these giants. But you got to remember, a giant might be somebody who's 6'6" and above. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
But they were a mound building culture. This is before the Mississippian culture takes place, and that stuff's just not talked about. But I told Jeremy, we have to be careful here because there's a series of cataclysmic events on this planet that nobody talks about. I mean, what made the Grand Canyon, for God's sakes? There's a series of floods that are in Native American history that need to be always kept in the back of your mind, okay, when these people get here, or maybe they happened before them. We don't know. It's been lost to generational trauma. Native people are continuously doing a lot of research, a lot of meetings trying to get this stuff out to their people and to their youngsters, because a lot of these prophecies talk about the end times, Mother Earth being mistreated, and if we have a chance as a world to be saved, so to speak, we've got to follow the red people, and there's got to be a reunification of what they call the eagle and the condor. Okay, and in very loose layman terms, the eagle and the condor is going to talk about people from North America, native people, and we're talking about people then from Mesoamerica and South America that later on had some type of a civil war here.
Okay, I want to get into that. Real quick, I just want to in the chat here. Out of Africa's nonsense, people were here from the beginning, and the whole. I think natives have been here way more than 13,000 years. Yeah. No, I don't think either one of us are saying we both believe that. I would say, but also I believe that people came here the way that we're told, like 13,000 years ago across the land bridge. People did do that, but there were already people here before that happened as well.
Absolutely. And look, native people, even certain Algonquin people to this day, actually say their people came from Central Asia across to Europe here. So again, I'm not telling any folks what to believe. I'm just telling them that there's a lot of different parts to this story.
Sure.
Okay. How they all intertwine, we may never get to the bottom of that, because it's so far gone. But yeah, so anybody's got more research, throw it out there at us, man, because I'm always willing to listen and learn myself.
Yeah, I like to just kind of dial everybody in, because I know there's people who aren't quite up to speed, right? The timeline thing is why I asked about the giants, and you said it exactly what I was thinking. I'm trying to keep my timeline that's in my mind right. So there's already people here in the Americas, North and South, right? Who knows how long? Million years. I don't give a fuck. Could be 10 million years. There's people here already. There was somewhere in that timeline, mound builders, right? The giants. Then about 13,000 years ago, people start coming across these bridges, whether it's from Europe or whatever. And that could have been from the Younger Dryas and all the cataclysms that were happening 13,000 years ago. Okay. Boom. Other people start coming in. And then what you're also saying is that there was other entities here as well. Star people, right? The ant people or the grays, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Okay. So stay right where you're at there for some more clarification. When we're talking about the first peoplings of North America, we don't have any DNA or good archaeological evidence to prove who they are. The second peopling we know came from, Mesoamerica, Central America, and those, for all intents and purposes, could be the Olmecs, the predecessors to the Mayans. And native people to this day out on the plains talk about the Olmecs as their grandfathers. So let that sink in for a minute, okay? Then you've got these Algonquins coming in, followed by people who are the Dene, Dene. So for clarification, the Algonquins would be, let's just start, the parent tribe was thought to be the Lenape, Lanape, and they went all the way to the Atlantic Ocean by 1296. The big Algonquins groups are the Cree and Ojibwa, okay? But you're talking about hundreds of tribes that are well known: the Kickapoo, the Sauk, the Fox, Miami. There was a tribe called the Algonquin, Potawatomi, Ottawa. Okay, these are some heavy hitters here. Okay, who are steeped in tradition. The Shawnee, who are steeped in giant history. This history that you're talking about, Jeff, the Shawnees are all over it, are all involved in it in the Ohio Valley. Okay, the Algonquins of the plains would be the Plains Cree, the Ojibwa that stayed out there from when they were going west to east. Okay, the Cheyenne, the Arapaho, the Blackfoot, the Gros Ventre. Guys, there's 2 Algonquin-speaking tribes in Northern California to this day. Okay?
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
They always tell you there's a catch, a compromise, an asterisk. Terms apply. See store for details. May be less than advertised. May vary by mood. Probably. Sprite Zero Sugar? It's different. It's the lemon lime flavored refreshment you want with zero sugar. So, no fast voice? No caveats. Just refreshment. This is Sprite Zero Sugar. Obey your thirst.
Nobody talks about it. So the Dene people, and I've been fortunate to visit with a lot of those folks. The Dene would be the Navajo and the Apache. Those people and these Algonquins were in some type of an alliance. So you got that part of it, Jeff. But long before that, they talk about when the native people were put on Earth. Okay, and I think this is a key point to bring up here. They talk about coming from the star people. Okay, and this is I know you guys are open-minded to this, and your listeners are. So we need to start working this stuff out there. The native people want to talk about this. I can only go into so far of it, but they talk about coming from the star people. But we got to be clear here. There were already people here, and there were already entities, maybe we would call them here, such as the proverbial gray that is so prevalent in the abduction cases. Okay? So let that sink in for a minute. So there's a whole gamut of trails to follow here. So, that just kind of gives you a big overview. And these people who are already here, or these entities that are already here, it's not real warm and fuzzy with them. Okay? And the native people have stories after story of battling not only giants, but battling these like reptilian-like creatures. And don't confuse that with the snake people out of South and Mesoamerica. We're talking about some type of two-legged entity. Is it kinfolk to dinosaurs? I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know now. But they talk about driving them across the Missouri River, back across the Mississippi, into the southeast. Okay? They talk about this protracted battle with these grays. And they talk about a protracted battle with a double-faced creature that stretched all the way from Ontario down to the Black Hills of South Dakota. So,
one creature?
A double-faced creature?
One creature.
I don't really know any more how to say it than that, but there's one good history and pieces to that frankly makes Star Wars look pedestrian.
You talking about like one creature or like a civilization of
civilization? Thousands.
Oh, okay.
Thousands of them. Huh. Not warm and fuzzy. And where this even gets more fascinating to somebody like me is, look, on my journey, I was just trying to understand what happened at the Little Bighorn. Okay. And Donovan and I were blessed because we had so many elders helping us. We never dreamed in our wildest dreams that we could catch this oral history before it was gone, right? And the elders kept talking about when all were one at one time on Mother Earth, Turtle Island. And so it took a while for that to register because I'm trying to catch what's going on at the Little Bighorn. There's a very proper way to ask for information from elders and protocols that you should, as a researcher and a historian, follow out of common courtesy for these people who deserve that respect. Okay. And it's a very simple process if you're taught it and you need to adhere to it. But once we started catching the Little Bighorn, these people were talking about these bundles, right? And they started telling me about where they were taking these bundles after the battle. And I'm like, boy, that sounds, I've never heard this, and I'm kind of like, well, wow. Why would they take a bundle there? That seems kind of out in the open. And then they started sharing a lot of this history about places. And I'm not going to go into where these places are, but they're well-known places. And they started talking about what a bundle's really capable of. And again, not going to discuss that, but the aspect of it is that it communicates with their ancestors, where they came from, the Star People. Okay. And they talk about the ceremonies from the Star People. The Sweat Lodge, right? Go ahead.
When you say bundles, my thought is like a bundle of sticks and herbs that you would burn. Is that what you're talking about? Literally, like a.
Well, like a bundle's going to be made of it could be an animal skin. It could be a mountain lion. It could be a cougar. It's going to be a rawhide parfleche. It could be. But
it's what I'm talking about. It's essentially like a bundle that you're burning in ceremony, right? That's.
And no, it's going to carry your medicine. It's going to carry something that you've gotten from your spirit helper when you went out and saw a vision.
Okay.
It's
making sense. I got you. I'm tracking.
It's going to have your protection in it, but it's going to be your lifeline to your ancestors, to the Star.
Yeah. It's your bundle of DMT.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to say it in a contemporary term. Yeah, but these people were in tune with this earth and this continent, and there's a life force here, and they knew how to tap into it. They also knew how to visit with their ancestors. Okay. And again, I'm not saying any of this. This isn't like I'm making this stuff up, okay? The elders shared, but when you take a deep dive, you can find this on your own journey if you do it hard enough. And these people understood where they were from because there's a certain way that they painted themselves. There's a certain color of paint that they would find, okay? there's certain medicinal properties that they were instructed from how to use to heal themselves, to keep themselves healthy, to protect their children, and on and on and on. Okay. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because they talk about the star people and how they interceded here on this earth and had really helped the red and brown race. Well, Lance, who's the red and brown race? That's still a big question, and that's more for Native people to visit with you two later on and on this show, and hopefully we can help you guys meet some of those people, and they'll come on here. But the genesis of that is, I was told emphatically that the brown race was infused by the Lemurians out of the Pacific, who smashed into the American Southwest, California, the west coast of Peru, western Mexico. The Lemurians got into Peru, and the red race was infused by the Atlanteans. Okay. All
right.
And a lot of these, they say, came into Guatemala, where the Olmecs and the Mayans were.
Lance,
yeah,
let's hold off there just for a second.
No problem.
That one's gonna give Jeff a nice little stiffy. Let's wait there for a second. Your Crystal laughing back there. You could see the just severe intenseness in his eyes staring into the camera. With the words Lemuria and Atlantis popping off, and his nipples just getting so hard with excitement. But I just want to take a step back, okay,
sure,
before we get too far. I've been waiting for like a breath, just so I can squeeze in and kind of help fill in some of the.
Sorry, bro. We're excited over here.
No, dude, I get it. I'm excited too. I wanted to just let him go, but I want to be able to fill in some of the listeners, okay? Because I can guarantee you, there's going to be listeners to this episode, and there's going to be some people that are just completely lost in the sauce, and they're just like, "What?" So I wanted to just take a little bit of a step back and just kind of let's Barney style or elementary some of this some of the key terms here and go over some of the history stuff for some key things. I've been taking some notes here, okay, and I wrote down Lemuria and Atlantis so we can come right back to this. All right.
Sounds good.
All right, Jeff, I got you. So first things first, let's go back, and I apologize to anybody that was really getting into that. I just know that as soon as we start this Lemuria and Atlantis talk, we are not coming back to any of this other stuff. So, all right, let's talk about, you had made a comment about this may be diverting into the woo-woo. And how this is their history, right? And a lot of the listeners may be saying, "Oh, well, this is getting too woo for me." I want to make a comment on that because there is a lot of woo going on right now, but the veil between what people were believing was flesh and blood mechanical and the world of the woo is starting to become dissolved. That veil there is starting to dissolve more, and it's starting to become more intermingled. Now, I'd say quite a while ago, a book was published by I can't remember the names of the authors, but the book was called Hunt for the Skinwalker. And it was a groundbreaking book. In fact, I have it right here. It's by Colm Kelleher and George Knapp. I should remember George Knapp at least.
Right.
And they had recently, up until a couple of years ago, just released a second book attached to it called Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. They did just release a third book, which, I'm going to leave out information from that for now, because I feel like that part is going to extend past what our conversation is about right now. But basically, the gist of the majority of the second book in this series is to talk about a program called OSAP, or the Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Application Program, which was a top secret Department of Defense UFO basically study program. It's basically, the gist of it was to study the implications of UFOs on national security by way of how they impact flight of both civilian and military aircraft from the pilot's point of view. Now, the more public version of this is ATIP. Now, if anybody knows Lou Elizondo, and there's a ton of people that have their own personal opinions on him and his, where he comes from and what he means to do, whether it's good or bad. ATIP is the non-top secret version of OSAP, and it's the more diluted version of it. And basically, I spent 8 years in naval aviation, and I was there when the whole push came out to start reporting UFO sightings. I remember when they started going through the different forms that pilots were to fill out reporting UFOs. That was the push by ATIP. That was the push from, Lou Elizondo's book Imminent. When that came out, he dove into the whole background behind that push, plus much, much more. But that was just a branch of the parent program, OSAP, which was top secret. Now, this program had major congressional funding. This program was based around the idea that there was a paranormal aspect to the UFO phenomenon. Not just the UFO phenomenon, but other unknown phenomenon, mostly around the idea of Skinwalker Ranch. Because the original book, Hunt for the Skinwalker, which outlines the entire history, well, from the Shermans on, basically, of Skinwalker Ranch through the Bigelow ages, it dives into the scientific study of NIDS, and then later on goes into the Bigelow Advanced Aerospace Scientific Studies program at the Skinwalker Ranch. There was a ton of money being funneled in from taxpayer funding to the study of paranormal aspects of UFOs. If you take what Lance is talking about here, about how there was a paranormal aspect to the Native Americans and some of their defenses and offenses, right? Or just abilities in general. This all connects into one other thing he was talking about that he made a slight nod to. And I don't know if you meant to just keep it a slight nod, but the ability to shapeshift, which is, for us, for the people who know this at the surface level, there is the legend of the Skinwalker, or the Yi Nalushi, which is a Navajo legend. Now, there are plenty of legends throughout all of Native American lore that translate very well into the Skinwalker, and I'm sure you could get into that. I'll let you get into that if you want to or not. That's completely up to you. But I would only assume that that's more along the lines of what you were talking about when you made that comment. You're talking along the lines of a Skinwalker kind of like theme.
when we were on the trail to the Little Bighorn, there was a lot of history shared with us that we could not put in the book, but yet it was made explicitly clear to us that we could share in a conversation like this in an effort to get the world to know who the Native people were, because of impending events that a lot of Native people in South and Mesoamerica and North America feel are already well on their way to happening. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll try to tie this together for you. So bear with me. But the point being is, to answer your question directly about somebody who can change their form. We had been told that when the 7th Cavalry was coming from Fort Lincoln to southeast Montana, following these people, following the trails, they were in the field for over a month. You're crazy to think that they weren't spotted, even though they snuck up on that encampment. Well, the reason they snuck up on that encampment on the Little Bighorn was the Native people, first of all, had thought they had driven the army out of the field 7 days before at the Rosebud Battle, which is just about an hour from the Little Bighorn. Okay. They didn't think that 2 armies would be dumb enough to attack them. Second of all, Custer and his unit had been, his army, 600 some men, had been spotted, according to Native American people, told to me. And in one particular story that I'll never forget is about a warrior who is in the historical record, but again, I can't drop the name because the family asked me not to.
Yep.
But this warrior who fought there was said to have those abilities to change form, and he and his companions had been on scouting duty looking for the army. They were coming from that direction. And this man, and I don't know about the rest of his companions, I'm going to assume that they had the abilities to do this as well, that he formed into a 4-legged animal common to the plains and spotted the 7th Cavalry. Okay.
Yeah.
That story is alive and well by one of the Native people on the plains of reservations, and those people were all at the Little Bighorn. Also, real quick, at the Little Bighorn, when I was talking to you about when George Custer split his forces, and he goes to the bluffs, and he's moving behind the bluffs above the river, and his subordinate Marcus Reno's thundering down this valley, and he's going to drive this encampment into Custer, not knowing that there's 10,000 people and he's got 140 men. I mean, but the point being is Custer and his men had not been spotted until we were told an oral history that's in the book where the Native people had sent their winged creatures, their brothers, the winged sentinels, out on scouting duty. And when they had driven Reno from the field, they talk about seeing this giant demonstration of, meadowlarks, eagles, hawks, woodpeckers, crow, that massive thousands of birds making this demonstration high above the encampment on the Little Bighorn, swooping, and they were letting this encampment know that danger was coming. And when George Custer was dividing his forces trying to get around these people, the birds were breaking off and swooping. So if people don't want to believe it, that's fine. I'm just telling you the history. But they had the ability to communicate in a different manner. Plain and simple, okay? Plain and simple.
You had also, man, that's wild. Like, sorry, try to move on, but were they mirroring the movements?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's Jeremy. It's so wild, but it's so common to these people. they walked in a different world than we did, man, and they still do. But they were in tune with the plants, the trees, the animals. Those plant, trees, and animals are alive if you're able to, in your consciousness, which most of us can't do, to go there, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are so conditioned and watered down now in our state of our form, we can't do that. Well, as I was telling you, the native people, many folks are very worried about future events. And part of that history is if we are to survive what's coming and get back to being medicinal people, that's their words, all of us being medicinal people, that we all could have those abilities to communicate with each other telepathically, that we could visit with the animal world, the birds. Let that sink in, right?
Is this talked about in your book?
I'm sorry, what?
Is this talked about in your book?
Yes, yes, I go through it a little bit in the book. Yes.
I will grab your book, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that shameless plug. I appreciate you.
I will definitely grab your
I
book.
was just joking in the chat, kind of making fun of myself. Like I said at the beginning, I'm biased towards this because this is stuff that I've gotten so deep into that, I truly believe this. And I'm also the guy who repeats that quote, belief is the enemy of knowing, right? So I don't know how I reconcile that, but I do believe this, that our ancestors, like you said, they were so in tune with everything, right? Now, I can break this down in the simplest terms from my mind, right? Like these people they knew what plants and animals or whatever it was, what concoctions they could make to access the spirit realm, right? Whether that's ayahuasca or psilocybin or whatever the thing is in the region that these people could use to access these altered states of consciousness, right? And in these altered states of consciousness is where you get into getting information from the Akashic records or whatever, right? This is where creativity and innovation comes from, the flow state, right? These altered states of consciousness. So I always said that the people, right? I always say it jokingly, right? Like the lizard people have hidden this from us, right? This was the whole point of all of the hidden history, was to hide the key to accessing altered states of consciousness. This is why they make all of those things illegal. This is why they've masked the natural, holistic world. What'd you call it? We need to get back to being medicinal people. Is that the term? Right? So they masked that holistic world with this synthetic world that we're being bombarded with frequencies, and we're consuming all kinds of shit that's making us unable to even get back to that altered state of consciousness. Even I was just telling Crystal, even if we stopped everything right now, went out to the woods and we started just consuming psilocybin on a daily basis, we would probably never get to the point as our ancestors, because they were doing that from birth. And like, they were just in tune on another level that you and I couldn't get to. And that's the big thing that they wiped out of history, was that knowledge. That's what I think.
You're on it. You're on it, Jeff. I mean, both of you are. You're picking it up. This is so interchangeable with what's coming out now. I never thought that this would happen like this, and I'm pleasantly surprised. And again, I'm not here to tell anybody what to believe. I'm just giving you the cliff notes of what's been shared to myself that I can share with folks. And if I can learn it, then there's no reason that somebody else can't, who's a seeker and a searcher, And I mean, look, these people have been telling this for a long time, that we've been abusing this earth and there's going to be a price to pay. Okay. And we haven't listened, and we can go on. But Jeff, go back to your snake people story. If you dig into the some incredible research, go back to that book by William Bramley, I think it was called The Gods of Eden. Some of the research that he turned up in the 80s talked about the snake people were really the people trying to promote what you just said, the positive abilities that we had, but the powers to be, certain church officials, and we all know who those certain church officials are, They might reside in Italy. They might not. Squash that and change that narrative that the snake people were crazier than hell and evil. Okay.
Right. The eagle versus the serpent.
Right. But let's go back though. What does a doctor have on his crest? A snake. Remember?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Now let's stay real quick in the Southeast. Now people want to talk about where did certain people come from that are under some linguistic stocks. We know that Siouan-speaking people who are on the plains came from Meso and South America. When the Bureau of Ethnography was founded in the late 1800s, we have maps from them that show Siouan-speaking people in Mississippi, the Biloxi, the Tutelo, the Offalo, and we have Siouan-speaking people in the Carolinas, the Catawba, drawing a blank on one now. Okay, so this has been around, guys. We know that these Siouan people, these people aren't static. They had to move around, and they were constantly following these buffalo hides, buffalo herds. But when I talk about all being one at one time, the cover-up, Jeff and Jeremy, it's in the written record from Native people. And have you guys ever heard of Black Elk, the Lakota holy man?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. As a young boy, he's at the Little Bighorn as a 13-year-old. He participated in the defeating the Reno Battalion. He was in the ceremonies to heal the wounded warriors and horses the day before the battle. And he became kind of a well-known historian. John Neihart, who was tied into the University of Missouri in Columbia, interviewed him in the 30s. And there's a famous book called Black Elk Speaks. Neihart's daughter took copious notes, and this information set until the early 80s when it came out in a book called The Sixth Grandfather. The grandfathers and the grandmothers are the ancient star people spirits that many Native people talk about. And we'll just leave it there for now. But in this book, Black Elk talks specifically about when all were one at one time on this continent. Okay? Okay, big deal. However, he goes on to talk about where they separated, and they separated again in the southeast of this continent, or excuse me, of this country. And then he goes on to talk about which way they go, and in those directions, which tribes broke off from where. I mean, what more do you need? He's telling you that just because you're an Algonquin speaker at one time doesn't mean you weren't running with Siouan people or Dene people, or I can go on and on, okay? So there's a gamut of this history. It's so there, it's completely glossed over. And that's my one beef with these guys nowadays that are bringing all this information out. They continuously are not engaging with the Native American people who are setting ready to engage in a proper platform with them being at the table and treated as equals about what went on here, about what still goes on here, and how they might be interact with it. But they're completely pushed aside. They'd rather be talking about, Lou Elizondo and him putting out a bad photograph. Well, the guy made a mistake, maybe. Okay. I mean, we can go on and on about these guys. We want to focus on all this other stuff when these people are sitting here ready to get to the table and visit, but they won't engage with them. But you got to remember the Native American people have a lot of reason to be concerned about engaging with this wonderful country of ours, as well as the Canadian government, who haven't exactly treated them real warm and fuzzy, right?
Yeah.
Skeeter's asking in the chat, were the Zuni known as the Star People?
I've never heard that, but to Skeeter, I haven't spent a great deal of time in the Southwest, but what I can tell you unequivocally is there is history of these people coming from Mesoamerica and South America. Some of the Zuni's possible kinsmen were told to me to actually every 50 years, they were coming to North America, and then the North American people would go down there in some shape or form, and these Zuni people are their ancestors, and or their descendants would go all the way to even Wisconsin. Let that sink in, okay? Now people would say, well, what's the big deal about them going to Wisconsin? Well, the big deal was that's quite a journey without a compass, without a stat phone, without a map. Okay. Second of all, when they're there, I'm told that they built homes underground like bunkers to stay warm. Are you kidding me? To be that intelligent, to be that those abilities, to do that? Look, if you go straight east of Madison, Wisconsin, right? The proverbial, they call it Madtown, right? The state capital, University of Wisconsin. There's a place called Aztalan, Aztalan.
Yep.
Well, there's an Aztalan in Mexico, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's the chances of that being just a mere coincidence? And you know what they did in Aztalan in Wisconsin? They had meetings to talk about what you guys and I are talking about, to how to preserve their oral history and where it came from. That's what I was specifically have been told, that centuries ago when they were meeting at Aztalan in Wisconsin, how they were going to save their oral history, because there was a group of people coming from the east, the white man, that was going to come and disrupt their world. So, there's too many damn coincidences.
So, the star people thing is super interesting, but you also said something earlier, the Greys, and if I'm not mistaken, I think you mentioned that they were already here.
So that's what I'm told. Yes, explicitly. They were indigenous. They were indigenous to either this planet, or or indigenous to North America, or they possibly could have been brought here by star people.
But at least older than all the known, or what's accepted as known tribes, right?
Yes.
Like we're talking going, okay.
Absolutely, partner.
So, question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Before I wrap up the other stuff I wanted to get to, so we can get back to other things. Is there, from the point of view of the natives and what they've told you, if you can touch on it, is there any tie between the Greys and what we would consider UFOs?
The tie-in to me would be simply that these Greys were here. They were no good. They were having constant conflict with them. But something happened where these Greys were infused by a race of star people. Now, does that mean that those star people put them here? I don't know. But they were infused by this race of star people that were constantly meddling with Earth. Lots of different star people, I'm told, were meddling with Earth.
Yeah.
Manipulating the native people, doing bad things, taking them. They talk about that. But for whatever reason, they took these Greys and made them their minions, so to speak, okay, to do their dirty work. And they infused them with some type of powers or better abilities. So, yes, to answer your question, yes, they do. They talk about
that. The cohesiveness with that and like the lore behind the Greys that's kind of canon right now is very interesting. So just to kind of fill in some others, that just may not be aware, the gray aliens are the aliens that you hear about. Like, this is your Hollywood alien, but they got their start really with the Barney and Betty Hill. Well, at least with modern times, right? With modern times, they got their start with the Barney and Betty Hill abduction case of New Hampshire. This would be the kickoff to that. Then shortly after, you had the Whitley Strieber communion event. And then after that, you really had a whole plethora of different things. You had Fire in the Sky came out.
Right.
Just everything and anything. Signs. There's a ton of movies. But basically, we have been led to believe, especially through the Betty and Barney Hill story, that these things are from the star system Zeta Reticuli. So they have been termed or called the Zeta Reticulans to give the idea that they are from outer space. They are extraterrestrials, and there's plenty of evidence to show that they're not. They're actually from somewhere here on this earth. Lance and I were talking the other night, and if anybody is familiar, there's a legend in West Virginia or anywhere really along the Appalachians of the Moon-Eyed people. And if you're familiar with the Moon-Eyed people, then you would know that they resemble what a standard gray would look like very closely. Then you have things such as the Melonheads and the one-off example of the Dover Demon, which is a very other close example of what a gray would look like. There's plenty of examples around the world, especially here in North America, of gray looking like legends or cryptozoological mythological creatures in our minds, right? Doesn't mean that they don't exist. We just don't have proof that they do. But there's plenty of stories about them. They're here. We just don't have proof that they exist. Now, to tie in my question about the UFOs, and I wanted to take a step back a little bit to your remote viewer topic, because when you were talking about how this conversation was kind of going a little bit into the woo, you had made a comment about how one of their paranormal aspects abilities was the power to remote view. Now, I had given the example of OSAP as a modern example of how the U.S. government was dumping money into paranormal abilities or paranormal studies. Now, way back prior to the most famous example of the U.S. government dumping money into a paranormal study, which was Project Stargate in the 70s and 80s, right? Which went, I believe, all the way up until 1992, which was literally the DIA, CIA, and the U.S. Army using people with parapsychological abilities to remote view and spy on our adversaries in a multitude of ways. Before that, there was a program that was conducted called Project Aquarius, which was outlined in Howard Bloom's book Out There in the 80s. Now, he had somehow gained two sources inside of what was being called the UFO Working Group. It was a group of people within the Department of Defense and CIA combined effort that came together and were studying UFOs. Now, the reason why was because of this Project Aquarius, which was the preamble to Project Stargate. The reason why Project Stargate even got the go ahead, the green light to go, was because during the Project Aquarius trial runs, when they were searching for Soviet subs during the trial runs, there were multiple times where when they were trying to find these subs, they found flying saucers or UFOs, unidentified objects in the sky over the waters where the subs were located.
Yep.
And every single time that they had found them, they were over nuclear powered submarines. So that's why, I wanted to bring that up because it all connects, because you're talking about the star people, the grays, I wanted to tie in the UFOs. I wanted to tie in the paranormal, the remote viewership, all of that. And I wanted to also prove that, hey, for those of you that suck onto the history books and read all the disinformation that they literally force feed you from grades K through 12, you need to understand that we have spent plenty of money on studying this exact kind of stuff.
Yes.
You have to understand that there has been an active effort to look into this. Like, we have done this.
What's interesting too is if you just look at the timeline, I mean, like the Battle of Bighorn was at 1876, right?
Yep.
And then you have they were putting these projects together, these remote viewing and these all these types of projects together in like the 40s, bro. So it was only 60 years removed from when, I would argue, and I'm sure that the U.S. Army was probably collecting this information. Like you said, the intel agencies were around then. So they were collecting this information all the way up to Bighorn, right? They were figuring out, like, hey, like you said, these native peoples, like, they have abilities, right? And they were figuring out like how they were in tune and all the things I was saying before. And 76 was probably like just kind of like the moment in history, right, in his story, that they were kind of pinning it as like, hey, like, this is a moment where the shift starts to happen into this new world where all the holistic shit's going to go away and we're going to be in this like synthetic world. I asked Grok about the Battle of Bighorn, right? And it gave me a little summary, and I was like, is there any numerology connections, right? Because I'm spooky like that, and I want to know if there's any numerology connections. So just to give you an idea here, the Battle of Bighorn, June 25th through the 26th, 1876, the date reduces to the number 8, power and conflict. That's interesting, right? Custer's birthday yields 11, which is conflict, right? And Sitting Bull's reduces down to 4, which is stability, right? And then 263 soldiers killed reduces to 11, conflict. So to me, the people who wrote the history chose these dates and these numbers to signify like this was the conflict between the old world and the new world, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, look, let me give you 2 quick examples. So anytime that a tribe of people, native people, moved out on the plains or anywhere on this continent, and you got to remember the whole tribe's not together. They're in smaller units, bands and teoshapes, 7 families or something like that. They had their warrior societies who guarded the movements. They had their medicinal people. It's a blanket statement. It's a medicine man or a medicine woman or a holy person. But no war party ever went out and no group moved without your holy person going into the ceremony and then at the lead of this caravan of people, because they had those abilities to remote view and to see where these people were going or to see what their enemies were doing. That's written about so many times from these warriors and their people. It's comical. Okay. Number 1, Jeremy, you were talking about the grays and reticuli and all those things. It could be, they could be from there, and they could also have been here, brought there by those people. It could be one and the same, right? But remember that little incident in 1947 in southeast New Mexico called Roswell, right? Okay. Now, if a person's new to this, you can dig into Roswell, and there's a plethora of literature to read. You can go down the proverbial rabbit hole. You guys know this. Okay. Don Schmidt, Stanton Friedman, Don Carey, and Kevin Randall have done a tremendous job of tying this together for us, okay? just get that last book. Hold on for a second. Let me show you.
Jeremy's got a list of authors written down. I watched him do it.
Witness to Roswell.
Oh, Jeremy's got the same book. Here we go.
Don Carey, Don Schmidt. Okay, two guys who have spent their life, and Kevin Randall spent their life doing this. Guys, they found so many people who were there that had taken the oath to this country, bless their hearts, and they took this stuff to their grave, or they told family members. But Don Schmidt and Tom Carey caught these people before they made their journeys. And if you don't think something went down out there, and these guys who were the MPs or the pilots who flew these bodies back east, then you're just not living in the real world, I guess. Very simple, and not to attack anybody here, okay? But they've interviewed over 100 people who were there, okay? They went on the record and talked about what they knew. Now, why is that significant? It's significant because the people who were there, the 509th, were the people who dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, okay? Number two,
they were.
Number two, there was no damn air balloon, weather balloon. You don't think the intelligence officer of the 509th, who was a decorated pilot himself, knows the difference between a damn mogul weather balloon and something from another world? I mean, you know.
Project Mogul is bullshit anyways.
Yeah, exactly. But people don't want to deal in the reality of the situation that we're talking, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. But the bottom line is, this stuff did happen. The native people are tied into it every time you turn around. And when you talk about who's here and who's not here, we'll probably never get to the bottom of all of it because of generational memory, generational trauma. A lot of this information went underground. And I'm not telling you guys I'm anything special. I'm not telling you anything. I'm sure in the hell not attacking any ethnographers way back in the day. But we know that some of the stuff that was told to them now was not true. You know, I mean, the stuff was taken to the ground and gone underground. But there's a plethora of evidence out there, guys, still to be uncovered. And it just takes time and getting out there. Pretty simple. But again, you have to have an open mind to it, and you have to do some homework that these people know their history. But again, they're not talked to.
Yeah. I also have Witness to Roswell, which is a great book. Which I agree is by far the better of the three books that I have. But I also have The Day After Roswell by Colonel Philip J. Corso and The Roswell Legacy by none other than Jesse Marcel.
Absolutely. There you go.
Which is this is it's got a foreword by Stanton Friedman. Marcel is the guy. I mean, he's one of the big players in the whole story, and I'm not going to get too far into it because we're going to eventually talk about that more in length. But I just want to point out something very interesting about the whole Roswell thing that goes beyond. I don't think there's any question about it. There was a massive cover up to Roswell. And it happened instantly. I mean, their very first press conference where they had announced that a flying saucer had fallen was quickly covered up that same evening. And then the very next morning, there was a follow-up press conference where they said, "Oh no, it was just a weather balloon." But they literally pushed out paperwork and official announcements replacing the term flying saucer with high altitude weather balloon and Project it just bullshit, absolute bullshit. They flew what's his face up from North Texas to come and direct the entire thing. Not going to get into all that, but one thing that was very, very interesting that I thought was a very interesting take on it, and the more I looked into it, the more I found evidence that it very well could have been true, that we were doing atomic bomb testing in the general area where it looked like we may have had some UFOs that may have been a little too interested in what we were doing and may have been caught up in an EMP. And that's how we had gotten the crash. It may not have been something that was mechanical or like a mechanical failure on their part. It may have been something where they got a little too curious and they couldn't have helped it. But yeah, it absolutely incredible story. Even when you don't look at just the cover up side of things, don't even look at it as if there was a cover up, because I don't think there's any question whatsoever. It absolutely was a cover up.
Yeah, we could speculate all day of what exactly they were covering up. Like Lance is saying, we'll never really know, right?
I don't even think you need to. I don't even think there were non-human biological bodies taken away, and they were split up into two different places, right? One was Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, and then there was one taken out west somewhere. Still don't know where exactly out west they were taken. We know one went to Wright-Patterson. We know that Area 51 was the cover place, right, where they were supposed to have taken them, but it was just, it was a spooky place that everyone knows is just spooky and weird, but really it's just a test flight facility, and it's just, it's cute that it has all the little green men painted around it. Yeah, but it really means nothing.
What I think all of this is super interesting, obviously, but to me, when I think about like these different, I'm gonna call them factions, right? These different factions, Star People, right? The Greys that were here already, right? The Native people, our ancestors, right? Like all these different people, I almost find it more interesting to think about, like, what was there a layer of deception in there as well, right? Are the Star People actually people from the stars, or is that a deception that was put on, the ancient people that were here already too, right? Because I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but from my understanding, like, I think the Hopi tribe talk about emerging from the ground, right, with the help of the ant people after the cataclysms, right? And like that's their origin story. Or maybe it's not the Hopi. I might be mixing up tribes here or whatever, but the idea basically that after the cataclysms, the beings that were already here that live under us, birthed humans from the ground, and that's kind of the thing. So I always wonder, like, when I hear these Star People stories, like, is that a deception, right? Was there some foul play happening back then, even to make our ancestors believe that there were entities coming from the sky, these godly creatures, but they were actually just, same shit that's happening now, I guess, if that makes sense.
Lance and I were talking about this on the phone call. We were talking about down in Mesoamerica, in the ancient times, drawing a blank now. I had it that night, but Jeff, you know what I'm talking about. The leader who was supposedly have come from the sky, and then there was the
Quetzalcoatl.
Quetzalcoatl, yeah.
Quetzalcoatl,
Yeah.
thank you.
No worries.
Thanks, man.
Tomato.
But and then at the same time, there was also that race of being that was coming up from the ground too. I mean, there's plenty of history that says that there was all kinds of things going on from above and below, and then you look at the same architecture in Mesoamerica, the far eastern China, or in Asia. And then you have Egyptian pyramids and other remote locations around the world where they share these architectures that are so similar but distant, like very, very
Yeah.
vastly distant. And the only way that they can ever be connected is if they had technology similar to what we have or better
Sure.
back then, or if there was just simply a civilization underground that had ways to the surface and simply just built using their architecture where they had these openings to the surface.
Right. If the inner Earth people, I'll just call them that. If the inner Earth people or the ancient ones, right? Like if they have the ability to fly around, if they've got UAPs or UFOs or whatever the hell you want to call them, they've got this technology. I mean, like it's not hard for them to trick the surface people, right? The native cultures that are here on the Earth, on the surface of the Earth, into thinking that they're coming from space, right? That's kind of where I get stuck. You know, I'm the space is fake guy, Lance. I don't know if Jeremy warned you on this.
No,
I don't necessarily believe in space, so that's kind of where my holdup is. I'm like, okay, well, these beings probably all originate from here. Just
See, I don't know. I think this gets really interesting, man, because then you even have like the Admiral Byrd story where he goes down the Symes hole in South America. You know, he flies in there and he comes across flying saucers and this strange race of being down there with vastly superior technologies that speak something close to German. They have flying saucer craft that they call, God, what do they call them? They call them I can't think of what they call them. I'll look it up here in a second. But not to hold us up, but I mean there's a lot of concepts that we've covered in the past, Jeff, and Lance, that seems to be connecting because of some of the stuff that you're putting out there right now. It's very interesting.
Well, I mean, look, you guys are it's refreshing to visit with you because we're just three guys talking, and if we all could have these conversations like that and bring something to the table with our all different researches, we could get someplace, okay? And treat each other like human beings and try to take from it. And you know, if I get something wrong, bring it to my attention. If you find something that contradicts it, you know, but let me bring three things to your attention real quick here. We know with, I believe, a degree of certainty, there's been many, many more, we'll just call them UFO crashes in the Western Hemisphere. We'll just stay in the United States, for instance, than anybody has any idea. Okay?
Yeah.
And there's a well-known former military man who's been talking about this for a number of years. And people can believe him or they can't. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I followed his trail. And I followed it through Native American people. And I'm telling you guys, and I'm not going to drop his name here, but I'll see if he can maybe come on your show. He's pretty open to these things. I followed his trail on a lot of times about where he said something went down on different platforms. It's never failed that Native American people have history to these areas, and they talk about the same things. And I've shared that with him because he's been nice enough to share stuff with me quietly. I don't go around dropping his name. He doesn't drop my name. And he's just a good human being, despite what a lot of people say. I don't care. So number one, so keep that in perspective.
Yep.
Let's go back to real quick to Star People and some of the Jeff stuff about underground. Look, many of these Native American people talk about going underground to survive these cataclysmic events. The Hopi are number one. The Lakota people talk about coming up from the ground around the Black Hills. Again, is that to survive a cataclysmic event? Yeah, they say it is. Okay. There's subalterranean caverns that run so deep and thorough through this, through the United States that it's mind blowing. And if you want to get into the weeds of this, and you can find Native American people who will visit, it'll even blow your mind. I can't get into all that out of respect for them, and that should come from them to tell you about it. But these places are all connected through the underground, okay? Now, here's where this even is more fascinating to me. On this journey, I was told explicitly by Native American elders that oral history talked about four star people put here to help us on our journey. Number one was Jesus Christ, but the people who put him here, the star people, could never understand how we killed him. Okay, why we would do that. The other was Buddha, and there's a tremendous amount of documentation and literature of some very, very strange going-ons and research done in Tibet. Hell, the Nazis were over there sniffing around. Okay, so we got Buddha, Jesus Christ. I believe the other one was Muhammad. The fourth one was a Native American entity who's known as the White Buffalo Calf Woman. Okay. You can Google her and you can go down the rabbit hole all you want. We could have another show on that all we want.
Yeah, we could.
The reason I'm bringing that up to you guys is Bob Lazar talked about some of this stuff with John, the late great John Lear, the conspiracy godfather. Okay. Art Bell. We can go down the rabbit hole. The point being is Lazar wasn't sure what he saw on some of these briefings. Okay. But there's some talk that loosely out there amongst some of these people who's been doing this for a long time, that there was a briefing that Lazar saw or somebody else saw, and I'm getting it mixed up, that said these aliens had told them they lost one of those 4 star people they put here. Well, that would be the White Buffalo Calf Woman. Okay. Mm-hmm. And there's a tremendous amount of literature about her. And we have been on that trail for a number of years, myself and a group of elders, trying to understand where she fits into this. And I can tell you unequivocally that she is not just a Lakota, a Siouan-speaking people's deity. She's a deity to Algonquin people as well, so forth and so forth. So let's let that sink in, okay? And the reason I'm talking about all that is that ties into a certain place here in the United States, okay? That not only did the star people come and have these interactions with the native people, they gave them infusions of what you might call spirituality, but plus other powers. And this isn't coming from me. This is coming from Native American people. I can take you to the point that I'm taking you. And I'm taking this out there for the listeners to pay attention, because this group of elders is working hard to preserve this. And the reason I'm telling you this is we've been talking about this civil war between the North and the South, right? Between these people from North America versus Mesoamerica and South America. Well, guess where the truce was called between these Northern and Southerners? At a little place here in North America where the White Buffalo Calf Woman is said to have been and came to the people. So let that sink in. We're talking about all of these different events having a point that coincides right here in North America. That, oh, by the way, coincides with the star people. Too many coincidences, fellas. Too many coincidences.
This is interesting. I actually never heard of this before. The White Buffalo Calf Woman. Yeah, I'd never heard of this before, which is, I don't even know how I've never heard of this before. Like, this is insane to me because.
Well, you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's don't beat yourself up, man.
I'm reading like a brief summary of it. I'm like, dude, this is like right
Jeff,
in line with.
Beat yourself up, Jeff. Seriously.
Yeah.
But don't let yourself get tied into that she's only tied down to one group of native people. That's just simply not true. That's a misnomer.
Listen,
again, that's the controlled narrative.
100%. Listen, I got to be honest, man. I'm gonna toot the horn of Grok a little bit, man, because I've been using Grok a lot lately, dude, and it says it right here. Known primarily as Lakota, but from several plain, or I'm going to go back to the actual quote. But yeah, it does say that sacred symbol in Lakota and other plain Indian traditions. So, there is something happening with the information, the narrative. I think things are going to start coming out more. This is just like a sign of that. I think the information age, the new turning that we're getting into, I think that a lot more truths are going to come out.
Yeah.
But,
Jeff, she was also called Corn Woman by the Algonquins.
Corn Woman.
Okay.
Yeah,
so this thing goes back so far, dude, about certain landmarks where these people were rotating back to, and you got to say, well, common sense will say, well, how did these people who are Algonquins, who are supposed to be migrating from the East Coast to the West Coast, how did they know about these places? Well, it's pretty simple. They actually went west to east and back west, So they went across these places, had encounters with the people from another world, and they also had an encounter with some type of phenomena that is and has always been here on this continent that the native people have lived with. Not in harmony, because whatever this phenomena is, it's not always nice. It's not, it's not benevolent. It's not malevolent. It's just there. Okay. And whatever this life force is, it's not something to be messed with. However people want to interpret that, take it in or let it fly. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. Super interesting stuff, man. Listen, Lance, I definitely want to have more conversations with you because, I feel like you and I could probably go for hours and hours on a lot of this stuff. So hopefully we can make that happen.
Wow. Yeah, man, we can do it. But you know what? I want to say thank you to you guys, but I also want to say thanks to the listeners for some great questions. Again, I don't want this to be about my journey. This isn't this history. I'm just the luckiest guy in the world for two reasons, okay? Number one, I've been interested in this my whole life, and I got to chase this, and I met so many incredible people who helped me, okay, or none of this would have happened to these, the Lakotas, Algonquins. And number two, I'm very lucky because, my family was always very, very encouraging for me to go to the library, get to the library, read. My mom, my grandma, my wife has been so supportive on this journey. I owe her 10 years of vacations. Okay. And we're going to make it happen. But I want to just throw this out there. I will do what I can for you guys to meet native people who possibly will come on this show. That's the least I can do. You guys need to hear it from these people, and it's time that their voices are heard. And you know what? I can certainly come on with them, but they don't need me to hold their hands, man. They've been holding my hand for a long time and educating me and protecting me and keeping my butt out of making some mistakes. We all make mistakes on this journey. I've simply just tried to put this out the best that they told me to, and to give them thanks for sharing on the Little Bighorn. They wanted some of this information put out there. And I did not want to take away from the Little Bighorn literature, but they wanted stories told about not only who was really there, but some of their abilities, the story about calling on the winged creatures. We can go on and on, okay? Yeah. But this was no accident that those people were gathering. They knew their time was running short, and they had to worry about getting these bundles out for hopefully something coming that they can possibly get back to some type of a shape that they were as medicinal people to lead us through these trying times that are said to be coming. Is it 2027? Hell, I don't know. Is it 2030? I hope not.
Right.
I hope these things don't happen.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, the information isn't dead, right? I mean, like, look, you're here talking about it. The elders and such, the native people, they're telling you about it. So the oral traditions are still there, right? The information is still alive. So if you get spooky enough like I do, that's a good sign, right? Like,
right.
Once the information's gone and nobody's talking about it anymore, that's the end. That's the apocalypse, right? But the information's still floating around there. So, and you're saying it now. However many thousands of people will listen to this, and like one person will pick it up, right? And like that'll be their.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, Lance, we are we will talk off the air. We never got into Atlantis and Lemuria. I stopped you guys. I'll take the hit for that one. We'll I'm going to try to convince you to come back on so we can pick that up. I have a little post-it note sit right there for if I can get you back on. We'll jump right back in at Atlantis and Lemuria. I had a feeling Jeff was going to love this one. I also have a feeling that Jeff might try to snipe you for his show, but we'll see. The only thing
we didn't even get to the. But I'm go ahead.
I know, man. I know. I knew this was going to be a long episode, man. And
There's
I had
100
a feeling
conversations, right?
Yeah, this was. I know. This was a. I knew we weren't going to be able to fit it all in one episode. But the only other thing that I wanted to touch on today that we didn't get a chance to touch on was the reptilians that you had talked about, and you had made mention about how they may have been riding them of the Missouri. Is that what you said? The Missouri River?
Yeah, real quick, Jeremy. So the story picks up with when all were one at one time still on this continent. And it starts with stories about dinosaurs. Are the dinosaurs de-evolving or evolving to these reptilians? Or are we talking about one and the same? But the stories talk about fighting these dinosaurs, fighting these reptilian-like creatures, driving them back across the Missouri River, then across the Mississippi River into the American Southeast. And if you notice, all of these stories from whoever they are, they coincide in the American Southeast, right? They finish down there. Well, that's because that's where these people from Mesoamerica and South America were coming in, Florida and Georgia. And oh, by the way, that's where some of the Atlanteans are said to have landed. Also with the Mayan people in Guatemala. So, I mean, yeah. So who are these reptilians? I have no idea, but I'll throw a plug out there real quick. Get on Facebook or YouTube and look for Terry L. Carter. Terry L. Carter. He's been doing research for a long, long time. He's a wonderful man. He'll visit with you. He'll give you his time. You guys might want to get him on the show. He does his own podcast where he interviewed all kinds of treasure hunters and seekers out in Utah and Arizona, New Mexico and Nevada. And he has talked a lot and brought a lot of people on this show that talk about running into reptilians still running around those areas. Okay. And I don't want to drop any of the guys' names that are on his show, but you can find them yourselves and maybe you can get those guys on there. I visited with them as much as I can. Good guys off the record. And Jeremy, I'm telling you, and Jeff, I'm telling you, these cats believe that they are running into these reptilian people still to this day. Okay?
Terry L. Carter.
I don't want any part of it.
Okay.
Because I don't know what good could come about that, but that would take some serious boots on the ground and whatever. And if these things are still running around, then where's our government? Where's our government, man?
Yeah.
You know?
They are the government, man.
Well, I mean, it all ties in. Like you had made mention of David Paulides earlier. We've talked at length here about the missing 411. We've covered it in a series that we call the National Park Mysteries. And we've gone at length about theories about what could potentially be going on there. And there's just a ton of ideas behind what could be potentially going on. One of which is that there is a secret race of reptilian beings that the government created these safe spaces, or these dead zones. Do not go too deep into these dead zones, these national park systems, and that's the reason why people are mysteriously disappearing, is because they are going too far. And
perhaps, man. Perhaps, I would just argue that I'd even say that, hey man, like they've been here the whole time with us, man. And as we evolve into this new society, so do they, right? And they've infiltrated their way into places of power because they're smart beings. I mean, they've been here all along, right? They're not stupid. They might be evil or whatever, but they're smart enough to put themselves in places that are,
I don't
hide in plain sight.
I don't have the research in front of me right now. It's something that I came across a while back, but somebody had done extensive research on a specific species of dinosaur, and basically said that if it hadn't come down to the extinction event, that the specific species known as the Troodon would have or could have, because of the genetic makeup and the brain power, brain capacity, the neural networks and everything of the Troodon, it would have or could have gone down a similar evolutionary pattern as humans did, and very well could have evolved into something similar to what we believe to be a reptilian. So if anybody wants to do research into that, Troodon, Troodon, is the species of the dinosaur that some are believing that could very well be behind the reptilian phenomena. That's an interesting path to go down. I went down that before. I was actually supposed to do an episode on it one time. Never did. But before we hand it off to Lance for goodbyes and plugs, Lance, you had plugged a couple books in the chat here that never for some reason your chats never made it over to Twitch. So I just wanted to I put them in my Amazon cart, so I just wanted to read them off for everybody again. We have The World We Used to Live In, Remembering the Powers of the Medicine Men by Vine Deloria Jr. and Philip J.
Right here.
Deloria. Yep.
Right here.
We have The Wolves of Heaven, Cheyenne Shamanism, Ceremonies, and Prehistoric Origins. Yep. By Carl H. Schleiser. And then we have Schlesler. And then He Walked the Americas by Taylor Hanson.
Yeah. That's a hell of a book. She was a trained anthropologist from Stanford in the 30s. She was discriminated against because of being a woman. They tried to stick her into the archives at San Jose State and Stanford, and she said, "Shove it." And she traveled the South and Central America, and she got on the trail of much of the stuff that you guys and I talked to tonight. She was on the trail of the Lemurians. She spent time in the South Pacific. She was on the trail of these reptilians, and she talks about a lot of this stuff. Get that book. You can get it on Amazon for $20. And what I loved about her was she was getting research that she found when she was relegated to an archivist. She was doing her own research for these, guys like Krober and the likes at Cal at Berkeley. And she was in the Bancroft Library going through documentation from Native people from 1870 to 1877. So they're telling her that story, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it goes on and on. This stuff has been around for so long. But Jeremy and Jeff, let me give you one plug for a book. Now, this book will not.
Are you a forward thinker? Then you need an HR and finance platform that thinks like you do. Workday is the AI platform that helps propel your organization, your workforce, and your industry into the future. Workday, moving business forever forward.
Carvana's so easy, just a click, and we've got ourselves a car. See?
So many cars. That's a click-tastic inventory.
And check out the financing options. Payments to fit our budget. I mean, that's...
Clickonomics 101.
Delivery to our door?
Just a hop, skip, and a click away.
And what?
No better feeling than when everything just clicks. Buy your car today on Carvana. Delivery fees may apply.
Steer you wrong, and it's called My Grandfather's Altar. Richard Movescamp. Okay? You can get it on Amazon. If you want to take, Jeff, this is right up your alley, man. You need to get this book, and I'm telling the people out there, this man was raised by a family of people, of medicinal people. And by the way, this guy's great-great-grandfather, his name was Chips or Horn Chips. I'm not going to pronounce his Indian name. His grandfather, Chips or Horn Chips, was at the Little Bighorn, and he was Crazy Horse's dear friend and his medicinal man who gave him some medicines to protect him in battle. But this book is like no other out there, and it talks about the things that you guys and I have talked real quick about the star people and the abilities of these people.
Right.
And I did not, it's not my place to talk about this because Dickie is my friend. I want him to get his recognition and his history to come out to preserve it for his people. But people in America, if you read this book, your eyes will be opened and a lot more understanding. It can explain things in layman's terms about these people and their abilities, okay? And he did it for his people and the future generations, okay? It's not like he doesn't want this known. He's talking about it. And he goes into one very fascinating thing, and I'll say this. He talked about the powers that the people had back in the day, and one of these was possibly, that went underground, a power to communicate with their people in the future.
Jeremy,
Okay.
send me the link to that book because I know you already got it pulled up.
I do.
So, but that book will open your eyes and open our eyes. All of us should be digging into that book. My Grandfather's Altar by Richard Mooskamp. Incredible human being. So giving of his time and sincere. Incredible man. So I appreciate you guys listening, man. Thank you so much. It's been a great night.
Yeah, thanks, Lance. We appreciate
absolutely.
you, brother.
Phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, wrap this up, Jeremy. I'm tired. I gotta go to bed, man.
I just put the link for the Amazon link for that book in the chat there. I'm also going to really quick for everyone. Lance, do you only sell your book off Amazon, or do you have a website?
No, it's only on Amazon, and I'll do my shameless plug. Here it is. The history they tell. Oral history from Native American and First Nations people regarding the Battle of the Little Bighorn. It's 20 chapters. This information had not come out until we were fortunate enough to be able to give permission to put it out. We tried to talk about as many people who were there that's not on the record and some of these abilities that they people had. And then we told what was told to us without changing it. And then I do a deep dive in the historical record. And it's on Amazon for $24.99. Thanks for letting me plug it. And, you know, if people read it, give us a review. If you like it, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But be specific why you like it or you don't like it so we can, you know, tailor our research later on for that. Because as a writer and an author, that's what, you know, keeps us going, right? So thanks for letting me plug it, man.
Absolutely. I put your link in there too.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's not showing up on Riverside's chat, but it is in the Twitch chat where most of our listeners are watching right now. I don't see. It looks like everyone fell off of YouTube and X, but Twitch is still very
Lance,
active.
I just bought My Grandfather's Altar, and that's the first book I've ever purchased off of a recommendation in the 4 years I've been doing this show. That's the first time I pulled the trigger on a book. So there you go.
Hell yeah!
Thank you. And you know what? You just stepped into the rabbit hole, bro. So wait till you read that thing. You're going to have to read each chapter like twice to let that thing sink in. Okay?
Oh, I'm ready, man.
Because there is nothing like it out there.
For sure.
It's all right.
So,
I bought 6 books tonight.
All right.
That's normal.
Wait till you read Vine Deloria's book, the World We Used to Live In.
Yeah.
There's a story in there about when the U.S. government officials were trying to deal with the Arikara, who are a Caddoan-speaking people who will be scouts for the U.S. Army at the Little Bighorn. And they were once about 20,000 people along the Missouri River in South Dakota. They came out and dealt with these all these bands of Arikara in the 1830s. And these Arikara were having ceremonies at night for these bigwigs from Washington, D.C., and there's Army troops out there. And they come out of the woodwork. There's like something like 15,000 of them out there. And one of these stories goes, the medicine societies and the warrior societies are all doing their dances at night around a massive bonfire. Thousands of these people are just crowding around these guys. And one of these medicine men comes out, and he pulls out like some type of a parfleche, a homemade, like think of it as a homemade kit. And he pulled out a bunch of mud from the Missouri River, okay? And they said all of a sudden, like 10,000 people go deathly quiet. This bonfire is massive, and it starts cracking. And this medicine man starts molding in this mud figurines of warriors and horses, okay? So the horse is on the plains by now. Contrary to what people say, the horse has been on the plains for a long time. And these Arikara were mighty powerful warriors. And this medicine man starts making these figurines, and he starts talking in Arikara. And they say that these figurines came alive. And these dignitaries from Washington and these army guys are like, holy mackerel. And they start having like a sham buffalo hunt. He made buffaloes and guys, and they start chasing these. It's like out of one of those Clash of the Titans, okay? You know, where those figurines are moving around?
Yeah.
And he said that those figurines start killing the buffalo, and all the people then start chanting or singing or something like this, and it culminates with they kill all the buffalo, and the medicine man then orders those warriors and those on their horses to then run into the fire. And get this, not all of them would do it. And he kept like, I command you, you know, like Raiders of the Lost Ark or something like that. I command you. And his medicine was so powerful, these figurines would not kill themselves in essence. And finally they did, but they didn't want to go into the fire. And guys, if you want to believe it. If you don't, that's your journey. But that story's from the 1830s, guys. What do you suppose it would have been like to have been out there, and then you're going to come back and tell a story like that and risk losing your job in Washington, D.C.? I doubt it very much. You know, kind of common sense, right?
Yeah, shit. Risk losing your life, man. Because back then, you know, you start talking about that kind of stuff. I mean, you're liable to get burned at the stake or hung or something, right? Like,
I know. Like, wake up, wake up.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wake up, man.
All right, let's go ahead and end this. Lance, I'm gonna reach out to you tomorrow or Tuesday or something just to touch base. Say thank you once again. Is there anything else that you want to plug? Anything at all? Please go ahead and take the time to do it. Shameless as anything, man. Just go for it. Anything at all.
Well, I mean, we've covered a great talk. We've covered a lot of stuff. I've thrown a lot at you. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to visit with anybody. They can shoot me a message. My website's up and running at lancej.dorrel.com. Feel free to shoot me a message, and I'll do my best to steer you to the stuff that I've encountered, and I've been doing this a long time. I'm not on this journey to be a talking head. I'm just trying to get everybody to wake up a little bit and to pay attention to these people. And again, I'll do my best to get you guys connected to a lot of these people, and I think they will eventually have some dialogue with you, whether or not we can get them here. But I think that's a pretty good start. I'm looking at my library over here and trying to wonder what happens to me when this, if I make my journey, and my poor wife's got to sort it out. I'm trying to get my little hometown library back in Northwest Missouri to take all of these books because that place was so dear to me. But no, I think we're good for now. We'll save it for the next time, and we can visit a little bit. And there's some more stories about the Little Bighorn And, there's a lot of stories about who the descendants and ancestors of the Native American people are. And if you look back on your wall behind you, Jeremy, there's a couple of designs back there, your wall ornaments, that a lot of people are talking about these days.
This one?
Go to your right. There you go. Keep going.
Oh,
Keep
those.
Those people. We'll call them the people. And that needs to be a very pristine and a very respected conversation. And that's one of those ones where we need to have some of the Native people with us if they will. That's a tall order, but that doesn't need to be coming from me. There's plenty of people who've talked about this. I can hook you up with some guys in the field who've been doing this a long time, but that information about those people is sacred, and it needs to be paid attention to, because that's a whole 3 other shows for you guys to take the people and your listeners down, okay? Because that is not to be messed with, and those people, we need to pay attention to that history. I'll leave it there.
Sounds good. Sounds real good. Jeff, you got any last words, bud?
No, man. This was awesome. I'm looking forward to some more of these. Appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you guys. I appreciate what you're doing, and thanks for having me. And thanks for all the listeners and the great comments. I appreciate all of the stuff, and I appreciate somebody listening. It means a great deal. And, this is a marathon, fellas. This isn't a sprint right now. Although it feels like we're in a sprint, this is a marathon, and this is a journey. And there is an end game, and I'm not sure it's going to be real good. And that's why we need to pay attention to these Native people.
Absolutely.
So, there it is. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Lance,
Absolutely.
hang tight for just a few minutes after we end. Just need a second for the system to grab your audio, and then we'll say our goodbyes. But don't go anywhere after I close out. All right. All right, travelers. That's all I have for you tonight. That was a great interview. That was amazing. I knew this one was going to be good the moment I got off the phone with Lance the other night. I was like, yep, all right, this one's going to be good. I shot a text over to Jeff, and I was like, hey, man, I have a feeling you're going to like this one. And that was pretty much about it. So, like I said at the beginning of the episode, a little bit of a teaser. Hopefully, actually, you know what? Screw that. Not hopefully. June 1st, which is a Sunday, we will have the next Patreon episode go live. We are getting back into the swing of that. Everything has settled. I am comfortable enough now to go ahead and start up the Patreon again. It is the Ryo Tatsuki, the Future I Saw manga, prophetic vision manga from 1999. For those of you that saw on my social medias, this is it right here. It is absolutely mind-blowing. Some very, very interesting stuff, and some very interesting stuff in there about July 5th, 2025, off the southeastern coast of Japan. So hang tight. It is coming June 1st. I will be recording it this week, getting the editing done, uploading it, and it will be ready to go, going live June 1st on our Patreon. With that being said, archives might be pushed out just a little bit. Looks like we might have to push out a month, maybe 2. We're cutting it close with UFO Day festival coming up. I just don't think I'm going to have everything ready to my liking to be dropped on July 1st like I had originally announced. So I'm going to give myself an extra month or 2 as a buffer to make sure I can get it out nice and pristine and pretty for you guys, and not have to compete with UFO Days. And that's that. All right. Well, Jeff, you got anything on Shadowban's front?
Nope.
All right.
Probably an episode tomorrow. If not tomorrow, probably Tuesday. If not Tuesday, probably next week.
Jeff is so laid back. All right. Well, that has been another episode of the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast. Thank you, travelers. Really do appreciate you stopping by. I appreciate you stopping by every week and checking out what we have to say. Until next time, we'll see you right here in the next fork in the path of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Goodbye, everybody. No buys. Jeff?
Bye.
Yeah. You gotta say bye, Lance.
Sorry.
Goodbye. Thank you all very much.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast. If you're looking for more of our stuff, head on over to infiniterabbithole.com, where you can find links to all the podcast players that we are available on, and even our video platforms such as TikTok and YouTube. While you're there, make sure to check out all the links for our socials and hit that follow so you know when all the new stuff from our podcast comes out. And until next time, travelers, we'll see you right here in the next fork in the path of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Bye.